Welcome, it's Terrilynn, TravelingArtista. Lately I've been working on a lot of kind of serious paintings, so I decided to kind of mix it up, not to take myself too seriously and to push on into something a little different, something a little more intense, and I'm calling it Vivid Evening Walk. Now here I started with this photograph. I turned to black and white to simplify it. I also cut it in half to make it fit the dimensions of the paper better. And it was something I took earlier on the estate. And then I started working with some color schemes. I thought I'd do something totally different and started with that teal sky, but that one didn't work so well. So as I'm working toward it and just playing around with the colors, I decided on a secondary triadic of yellow, green, red, orange, and blue, violet. Here's my board, and I thought in order to keep it kind of fresh and exciting and sometimes that little bit of urgency, I decided to go outside. It was fairly nice out, but you can see with my fleece on, it wasn't as warm as I was hoping. But sometimes that natural light just makes a huge difference. So if it's not too bad outside, go ahead and get out, even though it's from a photograph, you're doing some fresh air, plein air painting. It's fun mixing it up a little bit. Is it really plein air? I mean, if you're outside, plein air. And just because you're not painting something you're looking at outside, is it still plein air? Topic of discussion. Anyway, I start right off laying in the basic outline of my drawing, planning where it was going, looking at the photograph quite often. You see here in the lower right, I have put that photograph up closer so you can see it. I like the feeling of that house just back in the distance, kind of fading off. And then this couple walking through this winding path to get there. It's always a beautiful sight, and people really enjoy walking around this area. I wanted colors that were not going to be influenced by the original photograph, and that's why I invented these other color schemes. Trying to simplify, trying to keep things balanced, always thinking about the composition, how to lead the viewer's eye into this painting. So you're coming in from that lower left, the darkness pushes you back toward the center where I'm looking to have the highlights and the figures, and then up to that upper right where the house is. Started out with this amazing violet, just throwing that in there, trying to go crazy a little bit. Why not? I wanted something different in the sky, and this was different. And as I went along, later on, you'll see I decided some things were a little too intense, so I brought it down a little softer later on. Start tying in the colors. Yep, you've got this little pastel stick in your hand. Go ahead and tie in those colors and balance them throughout the whole composition. Now I started bringing in a little more violet. Those are my deeper tones. I'm working here on a great board, and it has that nice neutral background that I like. It's a sanded board, sanded pastel board that I had purchased. Now here I'm starting to throw in some of those red oranges, that brightness where the sun was catching those trees in the distance and in the background. This is part of the area that I wanted to start aiming toward a focal point, that center of interest, which I wanted down near the couple that would be walking, but I didn't want to make it too obvious. Early on here, I just had to throw in the color. Actually, I'd forgotten. Initially here, I am working with pan pastels. These are not pastel sticks at all. This is the pan pastel that comes, and I use the largest sponge possible to lay in those large areas of color. Get some color down onto your surface so you know what you're working with. Each color and each aspect of the painting influences and needs to be tied together with and harmonized with every other aspect of the painting. So don't wait too long to do it. I have seen artists that kind of approach a painting in more of a puzzle piece approach. They kind of go in there and they finish one little area and then they finish another little area. And that is a definite approach, and I am not going to critique that at all. Everyone has their own style. But it's tricky sometimes then if you have a larger or a different element that is going to affect that. You want them to tie together from the beginning. Now, looking at this, not too tied together. So I've decided to start laying over with my pastel sticks, a little more intensity. There, I'm trying to blend and lighten in that castle in the background. Just a little hint of that. I don't want it standing out too much. I don't want too much detail. I want it hinted at in the background. It's on the crest of a hill behind, trees coming all the way down that hill. So it becomes almost a part of that earth spot. I found a couple of blank spots on the board, and I am trying to here just get rid of those gray spots that are still shining through. Blending in a little more of that purple to tie it with the foreground. I'm probably singing or humming away to myself here. I do that quite often. And I like to stand. Standing in front of the easel gives you more energy. It gives you a chance to dance around if you need to. It makes it much easier to step back from your painting and decide where it's going, to look at it objectively. Remember, we're always considering how to step back and reconsider what we're doing objectively. We get so close, we get so involved in the details that we forget the overall effect. And that is vital to a painting. Now, I'm not saying I'm creating a masterpiece here, but I am having some fun. I mean, who wouldn't have fun with those colors? Look at those colors. Stepping back, doing a check. My easel is a very lightweight easel. It's something I can pack up and carry quickly and easily with me. I don't have a lot of fancy equipment here where I am living right now. I am still in a fluid existence with my life. So 1,000 miles away from here are the rest of my supplies. It's almost like I have two little studios. All right, you can see I'm laying over some lighter yellow, maybe a little bit of that green yellow to try to soften that bright orange yellow that's happening there. Here we're coming, and it's looking at basically the whole painting. This is where I stopped for the afternoon, but then I visited it a little bit more later on. I decided to call it basically done at this point. As you notice, the center of interest with the contrast and the brightest colors and most of the lines creating that almost X towards the middle to draw your attention to the figures there, but not too much so. I've drawn the lightest colors off to the side slightly. Anyway, it is vivid. I hope you enjoy this demonstration, and I will continue making more. Meanwhile, you enjoy life, keep painting, get outside once in a while, keep that urgency and excitement going about your paintings. That's really important. And try to keep it fresh. Meanwhile, all you pastel painters out there, stay dusty, my friends.